Hi, I'm Lawrence Kirkendall. I'm going to talk about the work that Tom Atkinson and I are doing right now, which is a monograph of the Platypodinae of Mexico and the adjoining countries. First, though, I think I should tell you a little bit of what platypodines are, for I'm sure that some of you aren't very familiar with them. They are weevils. Well, that's why I'm here. They're convergent with Scolytinae, with bark beetles in form and in their habits. They're ambrosia beetles, but they're not the closest relatives. They're commonly referred to as pinhole borers. Some of the older literature, you'll find that they're called shot hole borers. They are, as you'll see in the next slide, they're elongate cylindrical ambrosia beetles that tunnel deep into wood, usually into dead or severely weakened trees or large branches. But there is one species, the South American species Megaplatybus mutatus, that is a problem in tropical plantations. But in the photograph, you can see sort of the typical very long ambrosia tunnels of a platypodine that are very deep in the wood. Because of these similarities in form and in ecology and in behavior, forest entomologists and bark beetle taxonomists usually work with both groups. So this is a quick picture of what pinhole borers look like. These are some specimens that are sent to me by Alex Petrov from his collecting in Peru, and you get some idea of both the size variation and shape variation, but you also see that they really are really pretty similar to each other also. So what is our monograph going to cover? All the species that are known from Mexico. So the species that have been mentioned in publications, but mostly from data that Tom has gradually accumulated in the database that underlies his bark and ambrosia beetles website, to which I've been contributing for the last 7 or 8 years now. But we will also, I mentioned that it is basically about Mexico, but we thought we should include the two small countries that are immediately adjoining to Mexico, Guatemala and Belize. So what we'll be including is diagnoses of described species, which are short paragraphs on how to tell them apart from closely related, similar looking species, descriptions of new species, plates of photographs. For some genera, this would be for both sexes, and for others, just the males. Some plates that are for comparing diagnostic characters, like the one you see on this slide. Identification tools, both within the manuscript, but also, or within the monograph, but also there'll be a separate lucid key that we hope to complete a few weeks after submitting the manuscript. And there'll be distribution maps like the ones that you see here. So that's basically what the monograph will include. And here's some preliminary results that I've gleaned from the database of specimen records. This is based on a little more than 1,200 records in our database. And what you see here is the numbers of described and undescribed species, either for Mexico, which is really sort of the main subject of the monograph. So you see that there are 55 species that we know occur in Mexico. 42 of these are described species. But if we add Guatemala and Belize, we add a few more described species, we add a few more undescribed species, and we reach a total of 72 species. Now, to put this in context, looking just at the number of species that are found in Mexico, I put in some data from Costa Rica. Uh, Now, Costa Rica, if we look at the area of tropical and subtropical states of Mexico, Costa Rica is only about 1/8 of that area. It's much, 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 much smaller, but it has twice as many, over twice as many total species, considerably more undescribed species, and about almost twice as many described species. I ascribe this difference primarily to the fact that the Yucatan Peninsula, which is a huge area of tropical forest, is largely uncollected. But also, what might be contributing to this difference is that Mexico really is the northernmost uh, limits to the ranges of tropical of Platypodinae, which are largely or basically a tropical group. There are only 7 species in North America, for example. So this leads to the question, how widely distributed are neotropical Platypodinae, which we can begin to address from these data, since we now have data from Mexico. And so what you want to look at here is, for example, there are 55 species known from Mexico. Only 6 of those described, of the 43 described species, only 6 are known only from Mexico. That's what that 6 means. Or that the 15 total species, there are 15 of the 55 species that so far have only been found in Mexico. And so the same thing for the next column over for Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize. If you look on the right hand, well, the 2 last columns are to give us some idea of distribution. So how many species that are found in Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize, MGB, are also found in other countries in Central America, or how many species that are found in this region are also found in at least one South American country. Interestingly, there's one undescribed species that's found that I have from both Peru and from Mexico. But it's easier to look at these as percentages. So if we just look at the ones that I've indicated with arrows here, I find it sort of interesting that, I mean, you always sort of wonder how many species are endemic to Mexico or only found in Mexico. Of the described species, it's 14%. But what I think is especially interesting is how many are widely distributed. That is, they're found in Mexico, Guatemala, and Belize, and also found in South America. And that's about half of the described species that are found in Mexico. We could also look at the role of elevation. Tom mentioned in an email to me about a month ago that he thought that the reason that Platypodines seem to be very widespread, or that the ones that are very, very widespread seem to be lowland species. And I thought we could test this from our data. The problem is that a lot of label data, which we use for recording specimens in our database, simply doesn't give elevation. So I limited this to the described species, to the ones that there are more than 5 collections that do have elevation. And then I called ones lower elevation species if most of the records for that species were from lower than 1,000 meters. And higher elevation species, those for which most records came from sites that were higher than 1,000 meter elevation. So the hypothesis we're testing is that lowland species can more easily spread widely than can species adapted to the conditions of higher elevations and to mountains and cloud forests. So what I would call widespread is a species that occurs in both Mexico, Guatemala, or Belize, and South America. And more narrowly distributed would be species that are not found also in South America. So let's see what we found. If we look at lower elevations, there are 15 species that had enough collection data that we could say that they were lower elevation species. Only 2 of these are not also found in South America. 13 of 15 are also found in South America. For the higher elevation species, 10 of 16 are not found in South America, and only 6 are found in South America. So this does seem to support the hypothesis that species that are adapted to higher elevations are not as widely distributed as are lowland species. So this is part of our grand scheme of using our retirements to revise the Neotropical Platypodinae. So how far have we gotten? Well, since the last meeting, we have published a large review paper on what we do and don't know about New World pinhole borers. We published a short paper on Tesserocranulus and the one interesting strange species that's included in that genus. I've described another really strange species and put it in a new genus. And I published sort of a housekeeping paper in which I made 49 transfers to other genera and 22 new synonymies, just trying to get the nomenclature straight for our future work. So what do we plan to do in the relatively near future? We're going to continue with revisions of genera. We have 2 genera that we have come a long way with anyway, in terms of having the photographic plates already done. We will be doing the Platypodinae of Brazil, the Platypodinae of French Guiana, because there is considerable collected material, especially from recent years from mass trapping from French Guiana, and the Platypodinae of Costa Rica, where I've done a lot of my research. So that's all for me. Thank you.